Hey guys, welcome back to Fatality Fitness with Aaron Farrell. Today we are going to be covering round 4 in our series of Kung Fu Basics. We've covered hand techniques, we covered stance, then hand techniques, then leg techniques. And today we're going to cover guarding and countering, okay? These flow into one another, so I'm perfectly going to use the motif of the yin yang, something that's very important to me, for an example here. As I want to think about the concept of countering and guarding and then attacking. And as we're attacking, we might have to think about guarding. And you see this a lot in boxing, but it doesn't really come across as, let's say, guarding as such. You think it's a block and a counter or counter hook. But that is taken, I would say, inadvertently from Kung Fu, because in Kung Fu we are designed within our training to think of the two concepts at once. So, for instance, I would say Miyamoto Musashi spoke about yin-yang feet. So he's talking about when he stands, when he's got his katana, when he's standing and he has to edge towards or edge away, he's thinking that one foot will always directly correlate to the other foot having to move. So for instance, if I'm here in guard and I was to take a big step forward to cut, that foot, the front foot, moved forward. It crept forward as I swung, but that back foot is doing just a slight twist and a push. So if I go from this side here and I was to cut, this foot has to move to comfort this foot. And that concept, yin-yang feet, I like to put into yin-yang mind within martial arts, within Kung Fu for me, because every opportunity you have to strike, to hit, is an opportunity for your opponent to hit you. And likewise, if you were to think of offense, the best offense isn't a good defense. The best offense is to be offensively defensive. And I'm not trying to talk in whispers here or rumors around, but this is a key concept here. We are going to battle someone and we have no idea what they're going to do. So we have to be ready to attack and defend ourselves. The same concept of keep your guard up in boxing. If you throw it straight here, I want to use my shoulder to cover my chin and my other hand to cover the other side of my chin. So I'm always guarding, let's say. But in Kung Fu, we have solid concepts of guarding. So say for instance, we're in a horse stance, we will cover this in the exercises. We're going to block up and drive through with a straight punch. And then we come back and we block up and we drive through with a straight punch. We're doing that in thinking that our opponent is already attacking us. And this high block can negate their high punch up. So their arm is coming up here. It's either blocked away or we've caught it up here underneath our head, and then we can strike. That concept is very important to walk through martial arts with. Every time you kick, you could get kicked. Every time you punch, you could get punched. Every time you sweep, you could get swept. This is the challenge of martial arts. This is the joy of martial arts. So today I want us to really challenge ourselves to think of two things at once. And I don't mean the modern mindset way where we're trying to think of 10 things at once just to get through our day. I mean one motion and another motion are combining to make one clear movement. Okay? So we do katas, and we're going to practice a very small kata at the end of this. But for instance, if I'm here in horse stance and I have my guard here, and then I'm coming up to guard a punch thrown here. I come across to guard a punch there. I come all the way up to guard a high strike. I come down to negate the low kick, and then I come back up and return. Or I can come back up and strike out with a tight claw, bring it back in. All of these movements within our stances and within our katas as such, they are to be thought of dualistically. So when in coming up here, I'm not just thinking about my arm coming up here, I'm actually thinking about an incoming fist that I'm going to block. And the same when I come across this way, I'm going to block. Imagination is core in Kung Fu because we have all the animal stances that we imagine we're coating ourselves in these animals and tigers and dragons and cranes and mantises, but we have to bridge this gap between knowing we're all the same, we all have the same bipedal design of 2 legs, 2 arms, but you can see within martial arts, within combat sports, what some people can do with those same designs are starkly different from what others can or can't do. And so in guarding and countering together as a concept, we are always going to be managing ourselves against what we imagine could be happening and then what will be happening within a fight, within a street fight, within someone attacking you. Okay? So let's give a go for some drills that we will practice the concept of 2 movements at once that form 1 movement. But what I want you to stay clear on is that these are 2 motions. You are simultaneously defending and attacking. And I want that to be in your mind because you can't forget that. Because this is not that. Yeah? It's not like a hot rod's like ultimate punch. It's not that. We are imagining that we are guarding something to then attack successfully. Okay? So try and keep that in mind. Kung Fu is a mental game, and in the next video, stretching and spirituality, I'm actually going to sit down and talk with you guys a bit more about the tenets of it and why they've been important to me in my growth as a martial artist and a man. But for now, let's get into some drills. So, if you've done the stance videos, you know Mabu. Mabu is just horse stance, okay? It's the standard stance of many martial arts, Kung Fu included. So, for Mabu, to get into it in my version, we're gonna have feet together. We're gonna slide 1, 2, 3. We should have a slightly wider than shoulder stance now. We can channel energy into our fists and we come to sit down with a straight back, low butt, okay? So, hands by your sides here, on your hips, on your belt line, is good etiquette. For this first drill, we're going to turn slightly here is the punches, okay? But as we punch, I want that punch to come up, and as it comes back, we're going to build up to what we can do together so we can eventually get to this, okay? For now, horse stance, hands on your belt line. We're going to punch, so just 1 movement. And as we bring it back, we're going to high guard in front of us, okay? Use the forearm, use the fist. You're protecting all the side of your head. You don't really need to protect this as much because you're so covered here. This is going to stop an incoming attack. Why would you attack this if you see all of this is open, okay? But that has its benefits for us too. So, here, hands on hips. We're going to throw a punch, right, high guard left. Punch right, high guard left. Good. Come back down, stand up, give your legs a little shake, up the marble, and come back down, into it. Good, and we're going to do the same principle, but on the opposite side, okay? And this is a great way of linking up two motions, two distinct motions into a flow, into a rhythm, okay? And that way we can build up to really successful counter-attacks. So, I'm going to throw left hand, right guard. So it's almost a right angle, using your forearm, your elbow, the hardest bone in your body, and the back of your tricep to guard high. And then we switch it as a high punch. Okay, come back to normal. Okay, that should give you a little idea of thinking of two distinct motions at once, and you're almost combining them like a combination in boxing, like a 1-2, but you know, one of them isn't an attack, one of them is a guard. But to combine them together like that, excuse me, does form a great base within your mind for understanding linking moves. And that's really what we have to understand is, how do we link learning X and Y and Z into a movement, a motion, a stance, a guard, a counter. And that's what the Kung Fu mentality does for you. It can open you up to the possibility that you can perhaps defend a low, defend a kick with your knee. As your knee's up and they're thinking of the defend kick, you can step in to tie claw their face, you could chop to the neck. You are opening up your own possibilities, and obviously you can't go anywhere on these possibilities without the standards, the basics. So we'd have to learn a tight claw and a finger strike. But upon learning these, you realize how chaining them together is kind of like playing jazz, really. And although jazz is supposed to, you know, epitomize this free-flowing form that isn't practiced as such, you have to know how to play the drums, to play jazz drums. So I feel like martial arts is very similar. We learn and we drill and we learn and we drill and we learn and we drill. And then in that moment, you want a kind of mushin, this open, free mind, no mind. You want to be able to react. But we have to practice, we have to hone and sharpen our reactions, okay? So, the second one, let's go for, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, Mabu. So now, you can block with any piece of you, any bone, any muscle, any part of you can help negate an incoming strike, a possible or potential knockout shot, any part of you. But there's going to be pieces and parts that are obviously stronger, okay? If you are hitting out at flesh, soft flesh, let's say the forearms or the biceps, you can use a chop or you can use the blade of your own arm. So, for instance, as I said, we need some imagination here. I can't do CGI, so I don't know how to conceptualize this with someone else coming in. So, if I'm here, a high forearm block for me, I'm going to want to use the blade of my bone here to strike at an incoming forearm, because this is much harder than this. Okay, so here in a horse stance, I want us to push up. You're pushing up and away. So imagine the punch is coming here, it's going to want to hit me here. I'm going to negate it. Oh, actually, I'm going to stop the punch first and then negate it away. So as they punch, I'm using a tougher part of my body against a softer part of their body to stop the punch and put me in a better position, okay? So let's practice that. And then we've got some chops too. So basically the opposite. So 1, 2, 3, Mabu. Okay, so we want hands on the waistline. And this is what we're aiming for. We have the center line. We're aiming around the center line to stop the punch, okay? So it's not just straight. We're coming around. We're bending around to really contact their forearm. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Come back up. Every morning I go for a run in the snow, and my run up this hill ends with a particular tree. Me and this tree are very good friends, and every morning I run these blocks against the stump to strengthen my forearms. So I'm tree is here. As you can see, the motion with my shoulders, arms, hips, feet all allow me to drive energy into that block. And then I do these 30, and then I do chops, okay? So this is a chopping block. This isn't particularly karate chop, putting someone to sleep or really hurting the neck. This is a chop block, okay? So for instance, if they come in round with perhaps an overhand, this chop block, I've moved my head slightly off the center line, and I've got so much surface area here to get in the way of that and hit it away from me at least. It's not going to come direct towards me and try and knock me out. It's going to be deflected away. Okay, so we're going to try that. This is standing, so we can leave Mabu, so we'll go back to it in a sec. So, if we say we're in a fighting stance, I want you to take a step forward off the back leg and chop here. You're always thinking of chopping here, but I also want you to imagine you're still chopping with the blade of this bone. So, whichever surface area hits it, if the arm is coming this way, it's either the blade of my bone is going into the softer part of their flesh, or the actual chop itself is going in, which hurts even more. It's more directed, you know? So this is what I mean about thinking of the material in which you use to attack and to defend. And we all know the material used to attack is often fists, because these are strong. Often elbows, because these bones and these bones are very strong. But we have to use that same concept to learn how to guard, to then be able to counter effectively. And if you think the more you hurt or cause pain on a guard or on a block, the better opening you're going to have to strike in the counter of that block, okay? So, let's try. Let's say fighting stance, normal stance, for me, orthodox left leg forward. I'm going to take a step in, a small step in through myself, and chop a punch away. And then I'm going to come back with the same foot and chop a shorter and closer proximity chop here. So this is how it looks. And we go on the side, watch my feet. Okay, if you've noticed something a little, as I'm stepping through here, a block, and then I kind of curl my hand here. That's me imagining I'm cupping the fist of theirs and passing it away, so I can, if that chop I wanted to, I could use it on the neck, opening them up. And we're always thinking of possibilities like this. Wing Chun is a whole world of these tiny, tiny possibilities of one motion leading to another, and negation and deflection, okay? So, there's forearm chop, block, okay? High. Taking a step forward. 1, 2, 1, 2. Transfer your weight on each step. Okay, good. So that's a forearm chop. Now we're going to go straight into a gangu, block and punch. We saw this one a little earlier. So gangu, mabu, we got the straight stance, okay? So we're down here in mabu. That isn't to say that mabu can't be used to deflect here, and then here, and here. It's not just about where your chest is facing. You really are learning to defend yourself at all angles and the possibility of defending yourself. But this is the mabu, and even though we're attacked here, we can still turn it. But in turning, we can actually reach gongbu, which is a bow stance. So a 45-degree angle for your back foot, your front foot straight, and your hip now to the side. So I could be seen to be standing here, an attacker to come here. They might go to grab me. I see out my peripheral, I see a hand coming in. I block that hand, and I drive the reverse punch straight through the sternum, straight through the throat, up to the chin. Okay? So you're gonna get here. So you can go 1, 2, 3, like we would for mabu. But with gongbu, we're gonna turn a hip slightly, and we're gonna alternate between here, and then you come back here. Okay? So we'll return it to the middle, to a mabu, but this is more about the gongbu for distance too, okay? These punches are much shorter distance than this punch. I got much more of myself behind this and elongated. So punching off to the side is a surefire way that we can reach someone. Therefore, Kung Fu stance being side on. If I was front on, I only have short front kicks. Me being side on, like a blade, there's less surface area for you to hit. But on my shots, my jab would be longer, my side kick longer, my hook kick. That's why we change up directions from just thinking about down the middle, you know. This is what Kung Fu, Taekwondo adds to the theatre of one-to-one combat, whereas boxing is very linear, kind of similar to most modern kickboxing, very linear. We're always thinking about 360 degrees, okay? So, gongbu, guard, punch. Okay, so we're gonna go from here, from mabu. So, you're gonna twist the back foot, push your weight through. We're gonna pull our arm up to guard our head from that shot, and drive through. We're gonna come back to the middle. Come back to the middle. And take it slow. Don't rush it and not actually get the motions right. You are imagining blocking that punch, throwing your own, coming back. You're seeing it, you're blocking that punch, delivering your own. It's almost simultaneous, but there's a slight milliseconds edge on the guard and then the punch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Good. Bring it back in. On alternating gongbu, you're going to feel the burn in your legs a little bit, similar to alternating lunges, but we practice all of these stances to always be strengthening and conditioning our muscles, regardless of whether we're training cardio, strength, or technique, okay? So, I promised you a mini kata. So let's have a look at this, this is something way back from my childhood. Upon learning more and more since my childhood, I realized that could be called the five-point guard or the star guard within Marbu. But let's forget all that. I'm basically just teaching a small kata on how to block 5 different directions in Marbu, okay? So, 1, 2, 3, bring it down. We're going to bring our hands in. We're going to go one hand at a time. This is to be slow. This is to be controlled. This is to think of one thing at a time, okay? So, we have our hands here. I'm going to right hand first, bring my hand up, and I'm guarding a punch that's coming this way, okay? So I've got a high right. I'm coming across to flex something that's coming this way, high left. Then I'll bring it in for a side on guard. So I'm really covering my back and my obliques here from this shot. Then you bring it down, low guard, stop the kick. You either stop it here or you deflect it down. And then we come back, okay? And then the other side. So follow on with me from here. 1. And channel your energy, channel your chi, put it into this hand. Make sure this hand is unbreakable. Whatever hits is going to hurt. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bring it back up, return to standing, and give yourself a bow. We offer the foot and the hands to our opponent, to our teacher, to an instructor. Bring it back and bow. Because what you just learned is Kung Fu basics truly. I'm not trying to put a lot of names, a lot of history on everything. I'm trying to teach pragmatic Kung Fu basics. And this, with Kung Fu, it being such a massive term or terminology for many, many different martial arts, anyone could teach Kung Fu basics differently. Any black belt could teach Kung Fu basics differently. But here, I want to teach what I think are principled keys, points to learning and thinking like a martial artist, which is something I learned I had much later on in life. I didn't realize quite. I had my training when I was 5, I had my black belt when I was 13, I had my third dan when I was 20, and it was more closer to the third dan where I was like, oh man, like I think of everything like martial arts. Everything is the gym to me. And that is a beautiful way to see the world. And the same concept with imagination. Being an imaginative person anyway, as a writer, I think that lends to Kung Fu, especially because we have katas and we have stances and we have, one-man armies as such. We are learning to do a lot, even if we are alone. Yes, it's great to have someone, it's great to have sparring partners, it's great to have technique partners to practice. You need that. But ultimately, what you're going to be left with is yourself, the martial artist, learning the martial art. And I think for me, that comes down to your head and how you can think about it. In the next video, we're going to discuss the spirituality aspect of it and the stretching aspect, because those were instilled in me from a young age too. It's one of the reasons I'm a Taoist and now a Zen Buddhist, is because Kung Fu introduced me to thoughts that were not normal to my surroundings. So, Kung Fu, we all think it's about the body, but as much the head and thinking like a Kung Fu specialist, and as much about the spirit and believing and having faith in Kung Fu specialities. So, I'll shut my mouth now. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed some of the guards. Be practicing these. Practice these in the mirrors. Practice these alone. Practice these in front of your family. Practice these guards and start to feel what it is to block something. And then you can ask a friend, a cousin, to just say, throw one, throw a two here, and you practice. You practice the chopping away, the chopping back, the chopping away, the chopping back. And you'll start to feel the power behind these things. Obviously, chops don't feel so powerful when you're doing them against the air, but the more you build them, the more you chop trees, the more you just practice that with power in it, not lazy. Nothing's lazy in Kung Fu. Everything should be hard and channeled. Practicing that, you realize that one time a friend, a family member, a loved one goes to grab you, and you just go, whoop, and they're like, ow, and you're like, I didn't even know what I did. This happened to me a lot. I think it happens to a lot of martial artists. We're always ready. We're always ready, and that Kung Fu is truly the best way to learn to constantly defend yourself. It's always being somewhat ready for what may come. So, thank you very much, guys. I will see you in the next video. Have a good day.